been months since a video and even longer since an update on the XA. Just to jog your memory, here's what happened last time with the XA.
Now, last video I did in the XA, it was back in the warehouse, so this is quite some time, considering the lease in the warehouse ended in July last year. Jeez, that's been actually quite a long time. But we did all of the rear end of the car, all the rear bodywork, all the structural sides, the wheel tabs, and all that sort of good stuff. Coated it in the KBS to seal it all up, and that was pretty much it. There was a fair amount of bodywork going in, so now the rear end is pretty much done, with exception of a couple of little pieces here and there. But that now brings us to today.
And for the past couple of months, I've been tinkering away on it. I've been doing some other things. I went to Japan for a couple of weeks, went on a little staycation. Been doing things here and there, which has kind of prevented some of the progress on the XA. But as you can see from the title of this video or the thumbnail, she's running. And from the last video of the XA, that's a bit of a far cry. So there's been a lot that's been happening. So this episode is just a whole heap of iPhone videos where I've just been filming the stuff that I've been doing because I haven't really had a specific episode in mind. So this is just a culmination of a shit ton of work to get this to the point where it's now running. I think I've filmed about 4 of these intros over the past couple of months because I keep saying to myself, this is the week I get the video out and I'll do an intro for then, and then I just keep working on it. So in this video, I do everything from the sound deadening to the AC unit install to the digital dash to the wiring to the engine bay painting, all that sort of jazz gets done. So without further ado, let's just get into it.
So here we have, honestly, I don't know what I have here. This is out of the XG ute that I pulled apart a couple episodes back, which has like the heater, some sections for the heater box and air conditioning ventilation. So I need to see exactly what from this I need will fit behind the XA dash and also the XG air conditioning stuff, because I put the XG Firewall in here to give me the air conditioning controls and unit out of the XG. Because if you get an aftermarket air conditioning, it's like $1,500 for old school muscle cars. But if you just go and buy a wrecked XG Falcon Ute or like an XF or something, get the air conditioning out of that, and then transfer the Firewall, which ends up being like $1,500 worth of labor and your time. Look, if I was to do it again, I'd just buy the aftermarket air conditioning part. I wouldn't fuck around with the XG Firewall situation. But we're here now, and we have it.
Also, someone said that a Clevo and the XF Firewall don't match. They were right. This pretty much almost hits the Firewall, millimeters to spare. You can see I've put a little bushing rubber in there just to keep the engine there while the trans isn't mounted. But depending how the trans mounts up, I might have to level it up a bit just to stop the engine from hitting. But we'll worry about it when we get to it. So, oh yeah, engine's in, engine bay's painted. Did I cover that? I don't think I covered that. No, it's engine base painted in Nardo grey. I think I did that before I left for Japan. That's where I've been. That's why I've been a little bit MIA. I've been in Japan for the past three and a half weeks or something like that. I honestly thought I'd be able to film an episode whilst in Japan. It was just hectic, full on traveling around, a lot going on. So I thought I'd just leave it and enjoy the holiday. But now we're back, fresh new gear to put in the Falcon. And hopefully, interior sorted, dash in, wiring done. You can see I've sort of started to lay out the wiring where it runs. So got the wrap for the wiring, do the wiring harness. So yeah, that is the goal. Obviously I'm gonna paint and seal all that stuff in there. That's the goal. Probably won't get that far, but I want to get that engine cranked and turning over. So I just need to send it and just get into it. Also, filming on my iPhone today because, fun fact, the camera that I've been using to film all of these episodes, it's actually got burn marks on the lens from welds and sparks hitting it. So I noticed it lets in a lot of light and the image doesn't look that great. So iPhone until we get a new camera. All right, so first up for me, I'm going to start wire wheeling where I put in this replacement section here. I didn't know at the time, but they actually sell these whole lower sections brand new. So that would have saved me a hell of a lot of trouble. But now this is like super strong, super reinforced on the back. So I guess it kind of works out better. But just got to wire wheel it because you can see it's a bit rusty. Don't look at the welds too bloody closely. And same with the Firewall. There's still some bits there so that I never coated over. So get rid of the rust. Coat over it with some of the what do you call this stuff again? Here I've still got heaps of it, so I'm going to use that to coat over it. And as soon as she goes inside, as soon as she hears me talking, she's like, "We got company. I better go greet them." But while I'm doing that, it's boring. I'll just be doing. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to show you me painting the engine bay. I'm pretty sure I filmed it. I don't know. I did it before Japan. Can't really remember if I filmed it. Certain I filmed it. But yeah, pretty sure I filmed doing the engine bay, putting the engine in and all that. So while I do this, I'll catch us up with that.
Not much to catch up on here. It's basically just getting the engine out and getting the engine bay prepped for some paint. So coating it in the primer, I had to try and cover up a lot of imperfections from the sandblasting, which dented the metal. So that took quite some time. So I'm just going to do some sort of weird thing, the classic YouTube where they go and then it's done. Oh, that didn't work. Hang on. And of course you can tell it's not totally smoothed out and whatnot, but yeah, just don't worry about that. In my defense, there's going to be things covering up these walls, whether it's breather tanks or ignition modules or something like that. So realistically, you're only really going to see, these bits. Is a little bit of overspray. I had to do it in two parts because I only had one can. So one can pretty much did the front half. I ran out, had to go out and get another can and do the second half and this back bit, which is why you can see a little bit of overspray and difference between the two layers because one layer had dried a bit. So I've just got to give it time for the whole thing to dry up, but it gets the job done. I think the black engine is going to look sick in the Nardo grey engine bay, which is why I did it Nardo grey, because you can't have a black engine in a black engine bay. You just lose it, especially with a V8. So having the grey just makes the black pop a little bit more. Whereas when you come over here to the XC, the black engine, also I wet sanded it, haven't got around to finishing it up or polishing it. As you can see, the black engine kind of, I don't know, if the 2J it's probably a little bit different, but if that was all black, you would just kind of lose it in the blackness of the engine bay. You alright, Waffle? I don't feed you enough, do I? Oh, done, caught up now. Engine bay's all done. You've seen it, paint, cool, nothing too exciting. But look, done now. So I've all coated it. Seen it all back, all the bare metal bits in the firewall section. Coated it in KBS rust stop. So while I wait for that to dry, because then I'm going to use some seam sealer to go over where I've welded that in, just to make sure it's. So look, as soon as I start talking, she comes running out thinking I'm talking to someone. And she's disappointed. I'm just talking to you lot. So yeah, even though the weld goes all the way across, I still just want to use seam sealer. So I'll seal that up, do the same over here. Seam seal all that. But before that, transmission going in. Exciting. So C4, you can see it over there. Flex plates on. I think it's torqued up. I'm just going to double check because I can't remember when I put it on if I torqued them up to spec. Got new bolts for the torque converter. Slide that little bastard on, get the C4 on. It's a little bit more difficult because the car's at such a strange angle and I'm doing it from underneath the car. No more hoist. So yeah, let's get started on putting the old transmission in. And by the time that's done, we can continue with putting the sound deadening. Seam sealer stuff. And then sound deadening. All right, so I didn't torque them up. So I'm talking them up now. Talking them up now. 80 foot-pounds. 85 foot-pounds maybe? 80, actually 85 rings a bit more of a bell. I'm gonna stick the screwdriver where it fits, just to stop it from pointing. Alright, that's done. Now it's the shit part, which is dragging the transmission under here and getting it at the right level and getting the jack and trying to balance it and get a bolt through. Let's get her done. Home now, so I'm just tightening up the torque converter bolts, nip them up, rotate it around, nip them up, rotate it around, nip them up, do it around 3 times.
Right, I can get off the stands now, put it back on the ground, put the seam sealer in the interior, and then tomorrow when it's all dry, maybe underlay, sound deadener and all that sort of jazz, put the shifter in, start installing the back. Then fun stuff, not that. That wasn't fun. More bloody dirty now.
Alright, so that took ages, but it's done. Looks quite nice. Here's the black tape in between to tie in all the little gaps, and come out pretty bloody well. I'm pretty happy with that. Obviously got to put all the holes in the firewall, just poke them through. But it sounds pretty bloody solid. Alright, so I used a bit of plastic primer paint. Go over it, sand it down a couple of times, go over it, sand it down. Plastic primer filler. So it's looking pretty smooth. And I was going to use matte black, but then I found this. A little bit of Nardo grey left from the engine bay. It's meant to be used within 24 hours of setting the hardener, but I just tested it. It still works. So, you know. So I'm going to give it a hit with the Nardo grey. All right, so I got the flash on just to give it a bit better lighting, but I think it looks pretty sick. I'll let that dry now, and then we'll see how it looks after it's dried. All right, have a go at this for some engineering. Strong ass magnet attached to the spanner, attached to the car. It keeps pressure on the bolt, and I don't need 2 hands. I mean 3 hands. I mean 2 people. I mean, Waffle would be very handy if you had opposable thumbs. You could hold that. Next day, just fitting up the heater box assembly from the XF. And whilst I'm in here, thought I'd update you on the shifter. The paint has dried and I've put all the little bits and bobs on it. So let's slap her on and see how she looks. So shifter is in, the linkage is routed to the C4. It's not hooked up yet because the C4 has a bit of a binding issue. I'm gonna have to drop the pan and have a look at the valve body. I'm pretty sure it's the kick down lever. Apparently that binds up all the time, and because I've been moving the box in and out and around, makes it a little bit easier for it to bind up. So I'll do that later, but for now, just a little bugger on. And there she is. Then, oh, there's a bit of shit on it because there's shit everywhere, but the Nardo grey shroud. Obviously gonna change the knob to something a little bit more appropriate for the build, but for now, yeah, not bad. It's going to be the little things like the color coding of that to the engine bay and the exterior pieces that will really just set this build off. So this color will be throughout the interior as well on a lot of other pieces. So I think that looks pretty trick. But for now, I've got the XF heater box and AC assembly. That's all there. It's looking filthy. I haven't even cleaned it yet. So I'm just test fitting it for now, seeing how it all goes in, because that piece is the behind the dash section of an XF Falcon. And that has all your routing for your air. Obviously it mates up to that section there. I'm gonna replace that foam, of course, but it mates up to that and it distributes the air to your passenger, driver, and central exits. So I'm gonna take the ducting piece off that, mount it to here, and then test fit the dash, which is in the tray of the XC, and see how that all fits, because obviously this comes out a lot further than what the XA ever had. So a little experiment going on here. Before I forget, here's your evaporator for the AC. So I'm gonna clean that up a little bit. I've got the TX and all that sort of jazz for it. I might get it tested first, I don't know. But that exit's there, don't mind the paint that's come through. So that all fits. But here's the heater core, which is cooked, by the way. So I've got to get a new heater core. However, those exit right there. And as you can see, that might be a bit of an issue. I mean, there's enough room there that I can get them to come out here. So it's going into the holes. As you can see, not a lot of room to play with. We'll make something work. So there you have it. The XG heater box, air conditioning box. It can be done. It fits. You've just got to change the firewall, minor details. But in terms of dimensions, I wasn't actually sure. I didn't actually measure anything beforehand. I just changed the firewall and just said, I'll deal with that when I get to it. Now that I'm up to it, thank God, dimensions wise, everything fits, everything matches, and it can all be done. Okay, now that I've sussed out the heater box and AC unit situation, I can start putting in the brackets and all that shit that hold the dash up. Because once the brackets are in and the steering column is in, then I could start sussing out the wiring and routing the wiring, which
I've got the painless wiring kit. It's all zip tied into its regions, so it just naturally lays out where it has to go. And it has printed every couple of centimeters exactly what that wire is for, which direction it goes that way and what it goes to the other way. So it's called a painless wiring harness, and it really is bloody painless because everything is labeled so clearly. So actually looking forward to doing the wiring, which is very strange. But for now, we'll get these brackets in, get all this stuff mounted up, get the steering column up, handbrake in, new little handbrake cable there. And once that stuff's all in, I think I can actually mount the heater box and everything there. I don't know, we'll have a look. But the goal is to get the wiring harness sort of roughly going to all the bits and bobs and connected to the ignition barrel. And then once it's set in place here, so once the fuse box is mounted and whatnot, I can go on and route it through the engine bay and connect it to the engine. We'll continue with this. Oh yeah, bloody not bad. Everything's there. I mean, it doesn't look brand new. It's not like, oh, it's just got a little bit of dust on it, but it'll all be covered up. So those are all in. It's pretty much ready for the dash to go in. The dash has all the brackets on it already, wherever it is. I think it's, there it is. That's all that needs to be done for there. The dash can literally go in, but I'm not putting the dash in until this heater box situation is sorted. And for that to be sorted, I need a new heater core. So I'm waiting for that to arrive. I can put that inside it, and then that can go in and dash go on. But now we're gonna start with this wiring. So here's the kit, painless wiring kit for a, what was it, 66 to 76 Ford chassis, 21 circuit. Comes with all the Gucci kit, bloody everything. Comes with, even comes with a set of Willwood brake pads. What I will do is I'll clean this up. Like I'll throw this shit out. I mean, something so. You didn't believe me. All right, so a little update. The engine specific stuff, so alternator, oil temp, all that sort of jazz, is going through the original hole in the firewall. I've got a new grommet on its way, so I'll put that in. But that'll go, because that comes out at the back of the engine, so that'll help me hide it pretty easily. However, all the other stuff, headlights and all that sort of jazz, I'm thinking of drilling a hole somewhere in the footwell and passing the wiring through there, and running the headlight wires sort of through there, under there, and going in through the front there. You've got exactly 3 seconds to convince me otherwise. And too late. So yeah, already drilled the hole. Of course, I already had sound deadening there, so I had to get through that. But there's a nice little grommet there now. So I'll get this headlight section, wrap it up in the car builder's wiring harness snake, and pass it through. Right, so I'm thinking comes up somewhere along here and then just runs up along the inside of that. It looks about right. Now, it's at this point that I realise I'm 100% missing something that goes there. I'm pretty sure it's like an L plate or bracket to stop that. Will I ever put that in? Honestly, you'll never know. So, some P clamps or something like that to hold that up there. Mount that across. That's the headlight section. Done. Alright, so with a little bit of this that I have left, I'm going to do the interior side of the engine bay harness. Alright, so like I was saying, ignition switch, instrument cluster, all that sort of jazz will be sheaved up and run up through this little section here and basically go into ignition switch, little indicator stalk situation, and the automated digital dash, which will be sitting there. This stuff just running behind, so that's your radio, your hazard light switch. I'll have that somewhere around there because these didn't come out with one. Air conditioning controls and all that sort of jazz. So that's those. Heater fan, relay, heater fan over there. All that sort of jazz is there. And then interior light, courtesy light. I've just wrapped that loom up and slapped it in there because obviously courtesy light will run up through here and go there. And this is the rear section. So can't really do anything about that. I can sheathe it up tomorrow, but I can't route that because this runs through there, goes through that little hole there into the back. And that's pretty much the wiring. This looks much better than a factory harness, doesn't it? Just the old shitty wiring dangling about. I say that now though, I haven't actually gotten into doing any of that stuff. So we'll see what I think about it once I start connecting things and trying to get electricity to run through it. All right. So here's the issue here. You got the shift lever, which acts there, and the kick down lever, which acts on this little spring-loaded stub. As you can see there, little marks there, but if the shift lever and the kick down lever aren't aligned when you put them in, it's gonna hit on that little bit there and get jammed up. And that's what was happening. So when I was trying to go on a drive, it was jamming up against the edge there. Just, oh, go upside down so you know what I mean. Kick down, shift lever. So as you can see, they're not really aligned. And on this transmission, this looks like it's taking a hit. I don't know whether that took a hit when it was in storage, like moving this around off the car, but it's a bit cooked. So yeah, I can't get it to perfectly line up. So I'm just gonna take it off because I don't need a kick down because I've got the ratchet shifter and this is a Sunday car. So if I want to shift down, I'll just use the lever. I'm not gonna worry about the kick down. So I'm just gonna take that off and then line it up and we should be good.
Right, so now it's adjusted, that should be back. Neutral, reverse, I can't even remember what it is. Drive, 2, 1, 2, drive, neutral, reverse park. Sweet. She's good. All right, now I've got to go to work. It's Monday afternoon, but I'll be back in 1 week or in video time, like 2 seconds, with the radiator, heater core update, and all that other sort of good stuff. And just like that, I'm back from work. So more parts been delivered since I've been away. Couple of spicy units. The radiator that I ordered, that's obviously too small. The new radiator just rocked up. So let's do the radiator. After we do the radiator, I've got the dipsticks for the C4 and the Clevo. Got to put those in. Starter motor that's rocked up. Put the starter motor, connect up the starter motor. And then all we need is a battery and we can crank her over. And a radiator hose, I think I've got to go pick up a radiator hose or something. And the carby, which isn't on it right now. The carby is there. Got a rebuild kit for that. So we're going to rebuild the carby. But first off, radiator, engine accessories, rebuild carby, and starter motor. Let's do it. All right, I've modified the mounts a little bit because the mounts did go straight across and there was quite a large gap between the radiator and the mounts. So I've very roughly bent them in a vise. They turned out all right. I just need the rubber inserts there, obviously so it doesn't rub through, but it's pretty tight. So once the rubber is in there, that'll be good to go. This radiator hose, obviously with the factory thermostat housing, it goes straight up. So this hose accommodates for that going straight up. So I've had to cut it here. Originally this end goes here and it goes down like that, but I found if I reversed it and cut the end off, I could basically get this hose to work. Not look too bad at all. I'm still waiting on the lower hose. I think I've ordered that. I might go pick that up today. Lower hose shouldn't have any issues, but we've got to wait. And I've also gone ahead and installed the oil dipstick, which had a little bracket that was a right angle bracket come off here, and it didn't mount to anything. So I straightened the bracket out and went to go bend it at the 45 degree to mount into there. And I got it, I reckon, at the right angle. And then I went 1 degree too far and totally snapped it. So that would have been a clean install to mount to that bolt and be nice and rigid. But I got too greedy and ended up snapping it. Be a little bit careful with that one. I've got some 3-bond on it. Obviously it hasn't dried yet, so I'll let that 3-bond dry up. The next is to fill it with oil. I need the run-in oil. I was waiting until I got the dipstick installed so I know how much oil is in there. I can't install the Dizzy properly until I've done the oil because I need to take the Dizzy out and use a 5/16 socket to prime the oil pump and make sure oil pressure is building up and getting around the system before I start it up. But next is the transmission dipstick and the starter motor. So let's get those in. All right, so starter motor's in. But have you ever been looking at parts online and you've gone for the part that's $10 cheaper than the other ones or $20 cheaper? You think you're saving money, but really you're just causing yourself headaches. This was the cheapest C4 dipstick that I could find. That was black, still 120 bucks. And once it's in, the bracket they've supplied doesn't mount to anything remotely near this area. And it's at the wrong angle. If this bracket were to go flat, it would be pointing into the head pretty much. The C4 dipstick ain't going too well so far. I'm gonna take this off and flip the bracket around, and then maybe it might bolt up against the firewall there, or I don't know. Let's see how we go. Let the starter motors on. So we're gonna terminate the wires and get them connected to the starter motor and figure out this dipstick situation. Boom. Oh, nice. Look at that. How good's that? Let's go menu.
Display 2. That looks pretty sick. I reckon that's the winner there. Surely. Interesting. Right, now back to the heater box. The one thing that was keeping me from putting this in was these little doors here with the foam that just falls apart. Blending doors, I think now, but apparently you need the foam on them for them to work properly. So I might as well do it now, because pretty much once this goes together, I can guarantee you I'm never pulling this thing apart ever again. I had some foam sound panels that were glued inside a little display thing in my room, so I ripped one off. I'm going to use this stuff because it's the exact same foam, it's just shaped differently. So I can add a little piece, and that should allow me to seal this up. All right, and we're in. A little bit close. I reckon I could still massage it a little bit. Add some heat into it and bend it over a smidge more. I don't have the correct nuts for this. I'm not sure where they went, so I'm gonna go get those at a later date. So for now, I'm just gonna have these little plastic doobies that I've managed to thread onto there. And that is basically in position. Once it gets tightened up, it'll sit right. Obviously, we'll clean it up a smidge. Now, we can put it on the dash, start running these things, start running the wiring to where the wiring needs to go, and getting all of that sorted. So she's slowly coming together. All right, so I left to work for a week, and come back, and first thing this morning, we're checking out why the starter motor isn't engaging, and straight away I can see, not only is it at a bit of an angle to the plate, and I thought maybe the plate's bedded in, but if you look at the angle relative to the edge of the bell housing, it's definitely a little bit of a kick there. So my bet is that it is pushing basically punching the flex plate with its little cog. So I've just paused the video here because I stopped filming right after this, but as you can see, the gear has come out of the starter motor and it's got jammed into the flex plate because of that angle. So I loosened off the bolts, put it back in properly, and we're going to give it a crack now. Right, I just thought I'd show you the fuel setup. So I'm just running a little Holly fuel pump specifically for carbureted vehicles. Obviously, because the fuel line runs out through here, runs out the back. Through there, nice and neat. Comes out, and the factory fuel line comes out through there and runs along there anyways. So I'll follow the factory mounting points all the way to the fuel cell, where the little Holly pump will be located as well. But for now, just to get it running, into the jerry can, fuel pump, and I've just extended this wire using the accessory relay on the painless wiring harness to run the fuel pump connected to switched 12-volt power. So, and I think she's ready to be started. You know, it's like 2 in the afternoon, so everyone should be out doing their school run, I guess. So I think I'm safe. I think I'm safe to start it and run it for a couple of seconds. Let's see how we go. Good thing we've got ignition. Seems to be timed right. I'm gonna get it started. Just a couple of seconds of being started. So. All right, we're gonna call it there. I think there's a couple of things I've got to suss out, but... Psych! Doesn't that look hot? Oh, love the look of that. That's gonna look sick. And I don't think I covered it, but the dash is also at the upholsters. The dashboard is getting reupholstered. And something really cool. So it's not getting refurbed or done in the factory sort of way. It's getting done in a completely custom way. So that's gonna look sick. The digital dash and the custom center console, which is getting trimmed as well. But that's all I have. I'm gonna get this episode out. Otherwise I just keep filming shit and just drag this thing on and on and on. So let me just get out of here. I hope you've enjoyed that little catch-up episode. We've now got the engine running and a whole heap of other stuff done. So drop the video a like. I feel like I deserve a like just for getting to the point of having the engine running after what we've been through. After everything I've done to get it to this point. I feel like I deserve a like. If not, a subscribe if you're new here. And if you've made it this far, thank you once again for watching the video. I promise it won't be that long between videos ever again. It's just because I was filming on iPhone and every time I went to go get the footage off the iPhone, it was an absolute hassle. I didn't do any work on the car this week. I've spent all week getting footage off the phones and editing it so I can get this out to you guys. So now that this is out, I can finally begin working on the car. So I'll use the camera from now on so I won't have any issues with the iPhone uploading footage and we can get a lot more stuff out. Once again, thank you guys very much and I'll see you guys in the next episode.